Welcome to the USFL rules video. These are proactive rules designed to minimize risk of injury while promoting technical mastery for modern martial arts techniques and systems. These rules, combined with a technique-based scoring criteria, remove the purpose and motivation to cause injury, damage, or punishment. They promote frequent technical transitions of striking, takedowns, ground position, and submission attacks, all while providing referees the tools to minimize stalling and reliance of brutality over skill. This is an ongoing process to identify and further develop best practices in rules, protocols, and athlete development. So from time to time, these rules may change, so check back prior to each event. To deal with the ever-increasing skill base of participants and their potential to inflict injury, the following rule set is necessary to keep athletes safe now and to prevent wear and tear for their future. These rules may appear complex to some first-time participants. However, as a general rule, ask yourself, is the technique likely to cause injury before a reasonable chance for voluntary submission or before the referee can stop the bout? If the answer is yes, consider the action illegal. Most takedowns and throws commonly seen in other combative style sports are going to be legal in the USFL. However, throws that are either designed to injure or likely to injure are going to be illegal. It's also a general rule of thumb that the individual executing the technique is responsible for the safe landing of their opponent. Athletes are allowed to pull guard. Now that will concede the takedown points for their opponent if they can establish a top position. However, not all age groups can jump guard. Jumping guard is defined where you jump and put your weight on a standing opponent. The same applies to a jumping or flying submission hold. However, there are occasions when a takedown is initiated and the individual who is getting taken down has some degree of elevation to put his opponent in the guard. This is generally allowed. One of the ways to distinguish between a slam and a hard takedown is constant motion. This first takedown had constant motion, which is legal. However, this one, he poses and then deliberately drops his weight on his opponent to cause injury, which is illegal. Jumping or flying scissors takedown is not going to be legal. However, you can do a scissors takedown if you have connection to your opponent's body and one hand on the floor. This will help alleviate the risk of knee injury. A suplex style throw is only legal when your opponent is not directed to land on their head or neck. Legal submission targets include the vascular neck, vascular and not throat or windpipe, the elbow joint, the shoulder joint, the wrist. However, wrist submissions must be done without manipulating or grabbing the glove. The knee with straight pressure only. The ankle with straight pressure only. Straight pressure meaning not twisting, straight applied submission holds. And remember, all submissions must be executed with applied pressure and never cranked on. Athletes are not allowed to twist or bend fingers or toes, grab or squeeze the neck or clavicle. They cannot pinch. They cannot pull the headgear or clothing or grab your opponent's gloves. You are allowed to grab your own clothing, either offensively or defensively, or grab your own gloves. It is illegal to lift your opponent who has you in the guard and slam them, or to lift them if they have you in a submission to slam your way out. The same applies to an opponent on your back. You cannot backsplash to get them off you. You cannot intentionally drive them on their head or neck for any reason or any technique. However, the referee may break the hold if your opponent is elevated above your hips, fully elevated. This includes if they are inside a submission hold. However, if you are hanging below the belt line, the referee will allow it to continue, but give a warning not to slam. Now here's an example of some legal submission holds. These are from the bottom or guard. Now keep in mind, not every submission hold exhibited here is legal for each and every age group. Refer to the guide page for age progression allowable techniques to determine what is legal for your age group. Now here are some common submissions from the top mount or side control position. This does not include each and every position or submission, but some of the more common ones. And again, refer to the guide page to see what's legal for each age group. And here are some common submission holds from the back or from the rear. Straight guillotine chokes are not allowed. A straight guillotine is when your arm is encircled around the opponent's neck without an arm in. However, certain age groups can do an arm in guillotine where the arm is included with the choke. Now, the arm in guillotine series includes additional chokes from the front, such as the Darce, the Anaconda, and the Peruvian necktie. And these are frontal arm-in chokes, legal in some divisions. For divisions that are allowed to apply leg locks, the only legal leg locks are straight ankle or Achilles locks and straight knee bars. No other leg submissions are allowed. Any leg submission that involves twisting are strictly prohibited. This includes heel hooks or toe holds, both inside and out, and calf slicers. These are illegal in all age group divisions. Submissions or techniques that apply twisting pressure to the spine are not allowed. Bicep slicers are also illegal for all age groups. Neck cranks are illegal for all age groups and divisions. A neck crank is defined as any technique that applies twisting or dynamic pressure against a neck joint or spine. This can be done from the top or bottom position. However, if a grappler puts themselves in a neck crank by trying to escape a hold, the referee may end the bout, calling it a fair submission. All submissions must be executed or delivered with applied pressure and not cranked. Cranked where your opponent will not have a reasonable chance to submit or tap prior to injury. They must be applied and then pressure. With that said, the referee has the discretion and will stop a match with any properly executed submission hold. The referee will stop the action and break a hold if there's a potentially dangerous situation, like right here, his knee's in jeopardy, break, and then they'll restart to the last dominant position. The same occurs for any other position or situation where we feel the grappler will be in danger. We will break the hold and restart. If there's an occasion where a piece of safety gear becomes dislodged, such as a mouthpiece or headgear, the referee may allow it to continue until somebody's established the dominant position. Once that occurs, you can say break, hand them their gear, keep them in the spot, put your gear on. Restart the same position and continue. Your legal striking targets for the upper body are from the collarbone on down, from the belt line on up. You want to strike the torso. You want to hit from the frontal ribs to the front, not the rear ribs. As far as the legs, the only legal striking areas of the legs is the outer thigh, above the knee to below the hip, and that can be outside and inside. However, you are not allowed to knee the leg, only leg kicks for those divisions that are otherwise allowed to do knees. Any other strike is not a legal area, and it would be considered just for punishment purposes only. The athlete will either get warned or penalized or disqualified if they continue to strike a non-legal area. It is never permitted to strike the face or head, nor back or spine area. You cannot direct a strike to the knee, specifically the front part of the knee. You cannot throw an elbow or forearm strike. You cannot strike with a non-gloved portion of the hand. However, you can do a hammer fist. And you cannot headbutt. Strikes to the body and legs are legal. However, they must be employed in a restrained manner, meaning they are controlled and focused and executed with good martial arts technique. Athletes who lose their temper or composure or strike wildly will be penalized or disqualified. Strikes to areas or targets that are not permitted and only done for punishment purposes are not allowed. The referee will warn the fighter that they are not exhibiting scoring strikes and to only do scoring strikes. If they continue so, they will get penalized. Again, strikes have to be for scoring purposes. Therefore, they must hit only legal target areas with legal techniques. Athletes cannot kick while on the ground. This applies to kidney kicks from the bottom or stomps from the top or any other type of kick aside from a controlled leg kick used for the purpose of a guard pass. Now, any strike from the standing position will also be considered guard for the purpose of strike limitations. Ground strikes are limited to 3 strikes per ground position. When it comes to the guard, that can be standing over a downed opponent or in any form of the guard. However, when you're in side control, you can do 3 strikes and then simply adjust your position, such as knee on belly or north-south, or transition to the other side, and your striking clock resets with the positional adjustment. The mount and back mount are the same rule as the guard, whereas you can only throw 3 strikes per any position or combination of guard, mount, or back mount positions. Ground strikes and their limitations can be confusing, so let's go over it right over here. First, the strikes must be clean, unobstructed, with good technique, and the striker must be postured up or have their elbow at least high, level with their shoulder to score. Striker must be on top. Bottom strikes do not score. Each strike is worth 1 point as long as it's delivered properly. Wild or flailing type strikes will not score and result in a penalty or a warning. Maximum of 3 strikes can score from the mount or any variation of the mount position. The maximum of 3 strikes can score from the back mount or any variation of the back mount position. For side control, 3 striking points can be earned from side control, and 3 additional points can be earned with each positional adjustment or side control variation. Side control variations include switching sides, knee on belly, scarf hold, and north-south. Each time a new side control position is obtained, 3 more striking points can be earned. However, the athlete cannot go back to a previous position to score more striking points. Inside any guard or guard variation or any top position, standing or grounded, where the guard is not passed, is considered the guard for striking points and limited to a total of 3 striking points regardless of what position you are in. Now, scoring potential is reset when standing neutral is established, meaning both athletes go back to their feet. Top and bottom are reversed. And full guard is reestablished, meaning the guard will have to get passed, and then the scoring clock is reset for more striking points.
In divisions that allow knee strikes, specifically grounded knees, you must have control of the upper body with one knee on the mat to execute a legal knee. You are not permitted to throw knees or any type of kick from a standing up position.
If the top athlete exceeds their 3 scoring strikes per position, the referee will give a warning. Grappler, you exceeded your strikes, advance your position. At that point, he either has to stop striking, go for another positional change, or change positions to strike. Break. If an athlete is hurt with a legal strike, the referee can stop, go to neutral corner, give the injured athlete time to recover. If necessary, medical help can be summoned to evaluate him. If he's able to continue, the fight will proceed, and there's no points awarded for injury, just legal techniques. Now we're going to cover passivity or stalling. Again, these rules are made to facilitate action, scoring, and technical development, not just getting us lead and holding on to it. You have to constantly work to either score by striking, positional change, or win by submission. One example of stalling is not holding an upright stance while you're striking, limiting your opponent's ability to strike. The referee will give the command action red, give a 10 count, and if he does not fix the action that was stalling, he will lose a point. Another example of stalling on the feet is continuously backing up and running away. Action red. If he does not fix his action by my 10th count, the referee should break the action, give blue 1 point, because red was stalling, he would not engage. Now, if one of the athletes decide to pull guard or butt scoop, the burden of passivity is on them because they denied the other athlete an opportunity to score a takedown. So the referee's command will be action red. If he does not either score or stand back up within 10 seconds, he will lose that point. Now, if an athlete initiates a takedown, the burden of passivity is on them. Blue does not have to engage in this point because red chose to take the match to the mat. The command will be action red. If he does not engage within those 10 seconds, he can be penalized. He can engage by either striking, submitting, or getting position. If blue chooses to stand up during that period of time, then the burden is on nobody. Passivity in regards to the guard position applies to red in this case. If he has a closed guard and he's just clinching up, as long as blue is trying to further the action by posturing up and scoring, the burden is on red. The referee should give the command, action red, start the 10 count. If he does not remedy that by the 10th count, the referee should break them, stand them up, and award 1 point to blue because red is being passive. On the other side, if blue is simply pinning red, and red is trying to score or posture up, the burden is now on blue. The referee will say, action blue, start the 10 count. If he does not remedy that by the 10 count, the referee will break them, stand them up, give 1 point to red because blue is being passive. Now, both athletes are being passive by just hugging and not trying to score. The referee does not have to wait for the 10 count, and he will not penalize either fighter. He will just simply break them and stand them up. Now, this same standard can even be applied if one athlete is in a dominant position. For instance, in this case, blue has obtained a mount position. He's already scored his 3 points. He may have scored some striking points, but right now he's not trying to further the action by either submitting or score more points. So the referee can give the command, action blue, give the 10 count, and if he does not remedy himself by either scoring by strikes, positional change, or attempting a submission, they will be stood up, and red will get the point for passivity. Now, the one occasion where we would not apply a passivity call is if one of the athletes is just simply trying to survive. In this case, red is trying not to get armbarred. He is shut down. He's not able to further the action because blue has an effective near submission attempt. So we will not apply passivity, but of course, blue will get the near submission point if he does not finish.
Now here's a review of legal and illegal techniques utilizing the age-based technique limitation scale. Juniors, the oldest age group, ages 16 and 17. Any techniques that's generally prohibited from the Unified Rules of MMA is also going to be prohibited for our juniors. And any technique that will reasonably cause injury prior to voluntary submission or stoppage is not going to be allowed. There are no head strikes. Knee strikes are limited to the body only. There are no dangerous throws or takedowns or techniques that are designed for your opponent to land on their head or neck. There's no slamming from the guard or slamming out of a submission. There's no twisting leg submissions. There's no neck cranks or neck or spine submissions. There's no straight guillotine style chokes. Ground strikes are limited to 3 scoring strikes per ground position. Cadets ages 14 and 15. Any technique that's prohibited from the junior division will also apply to the cadets. There are no leg or foot submissions. There are no knee strikes. Schoolboy, schoolgirl, ages 12 and 13. Any technique that's prohibited from the older age groups will also apply. There are no jumping guard. There's no flying submissions. Novice, ages 10 and 11. Prohibited techniques from the older age groups will also apply. There's no frontal arm-in guillotine style chokes. Common examples are the arm-in guillotine, the darce, the anaconda, and the Peruvian necktie. These divisions can be co-ed, meaning boys and girls can compete together. The youngest age group, rookies, ages 8 and 9. Previously prohibited techniques for the older age groups will apply. And there are no ground strikes. Just like the novice, boys and girls can compete together. We understand if you're new to this sport, it may be intimidating or even overwhelming with all the different rules and nuances. However, by just going to our website, fightleague.org, clicking register, all these training materials, including the handout you're seeing right now, is available for athletes, coaches, and officials.